Inflation is the gradual increase in prices over time, meaning the money you have today won't buy as much tomorrow. It's a crucial concept because it directly impacts your savings and purchasing power. When inflation rises, the value of your saved money can shrink if it's not growing at the same pace. Understanding inflation helps you make smarter financial decisions to protect and grow your wealth. Let's dive into what inflation really means and how it affects your savings. Today we'll talk about what is inflation and how it affects your savings. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Understanding inflation, the basics. Inflation is an economic concept that refers to the general increase in prices of goods and services over time. Essentially, when inflation occurs, the purchasing power of your money decreases, meaning that the same amount of money will buy you less than it did before. Inflation is often expressed as an annual percentage rate. For example, if the inflation rate is 3% per year, then something that costs $100 today will cost $103 a year from now. Inflation is a normal part of a growing economy, driven by various factors including increased demand, rising production costs, or expansion of the money supply by central banks. While moderate inflation is generally seen as a sign of a healthy economy, excessive inflation can erode the value of money rapidly, leading to economic instability. 2 types of inflation. There are different forms of inflation that economists monitor. Demand pull inflation. This happens when demand for goods and services outpaces supply, driving prices up. It often occurs during periods of strong economic growth. Cost push inflation. This occurs when the costs of production rise, such as wages or raw materials, forcing businesses to increase prices to maintain profitability. Built-in inflation. This refers to the inflation that results from adaptive expectations, where workers demand higher wages to keep up with the cost of living, and businesses pass those costs to consumers. Understanding these types helps explain why inflation occurs and how it can vary over time. 3. How inflation is measured. Inflation is tracked through various indices, the most common being the Consumer Price Index, CPI, and the Producer Price Index, PPI. Consumer Price Index, CPI, measures the average change over time in the prices paid by consumers for a market basket of goods and services, including food, clothing, transportation, and housing. Producer Price Index, PPI, measures price changes from the perspective of producers or wholesalers before goods reach the retail market. Central banks and policymakers rely heavily on these indicators to make decisions about interest rates and economic policies. 4. Why inflation matters to you. You might wonder why inflation is important in your day-to-day life. The answer lies in how inflation affects your purchasing power, the real value of money. If inflation rises faster than your income or investment returns, your ability to buy goods and services diminishes. This can lead to a higher cost of living, making everyday essentials more expensive and reducing your overall financial security. 4. The impact of inflation on savings. One of the most significant ways inflation affects individuals is through its impact on savings. When you save money, typically in a bank account or other low-risk investments, the nominal amount you have increases little or not at all over time. If inflation rates are higher than the interest you earn, the real value or purchasing power of your savings actually decreases. For example, suppose you have $10,000 in a savings account, earning 1% interest annually, but inflation is running at 3%. After 1 year, your savings would grow to $10,100, but the cost of goods would have increased by 3%, meaning your money buys less effectively. Your purchasing power has shrunk by around 2%. 5. Real V's. Nominal interest rates. This introduces the important concept of real interest rates, which are adjusted for inflation, versus nominal interest rates, which are not. The real interest rate tells you how much your money is truly growing after accounting for inflation. Nominal interest rate, the stated rate on your savings or investment. Real interest rate, nominal rate minus inflation rate. If inflation exceeds the nominal interest rate, your real interest rate is negative, meaning your savings are losing value over time. 6. Inflation and different types of savings. The impact of inflation varies depending on where you keep your money. Savings accounts typically offer low interest rates, often below inflation, making them vulnerable to loss of purchasing power. Fixed deposits, CDs, usually have slightly higher rates, But if inflation is high, real returns might still be negative. Cash. Holding large amounts of cash is risky in inflationary environments because it has no interest and loses value steadily. Stocks and real estate. These assets often outpace inflation over the long term because companies and properties tend to increase in value with inflation. Bonds. Fixed-rate bonds may suffer during inflation since the fixed payments lose value. But inflation-protected bonds, like TIPS in the U.S., adjust payments according to inflation. 7. Inflation and retirement savings. Inflation poses a particularly serious risk to retirement savings. If you plan to live on your savings for many years after retirement, inflation can gradually erode your nest egg's purchasing power. This means that what looks like a comfortable retirement fund today might be insufficient in the future. To combat this, financial planners often recommend that retirement portfolios include investments that have historically kept pace with or exceeded inflation, such as stocks, real estate, or inflation-indexed bonds. 8. How to protect your savings from inflation. Fortunately, there are several strategies to help shield your savings from the negative effects of inflation. Invest in inflation-protected securities. These government-issued bonds adjust their principal and interest payments based on inflation rates. Diversify your portfolio, including stocks, real estate, commodities, and other assets can help your investments grow faster than inflation. Consider higher-yield savings options. Some accounts or bonds offer rates closer to or above inflation. Regularly review and adjust your financial plan. As inflation rates change, your investment strategy may need updating to maintain purchasing power. 9. The role of central banks in inflation control. Central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the U.S., play a crucial role in managing inflation. Their primary tool is adjusting interest rates. When inflation is high, central banks may raise interest rates to make borrowing more expensive, which can slow economic activity and reduce inflation. Conversely, when inflation is too low or the economy slows down, they might lower interest rates to encourage borrowing and spending, which can boost inflation to healthy levels. 10. Inflation in a global context. Inflation isn't just a local issue, it can be influenced by global events. Supply chain disruptions, geopolitical tensions, energy prices, and currency fluctuations all affect inflation rates worldwide. For example, a spike in oil prices can cause inflation to rise globally since energy costs influence transportation and production prices across many sectors. 11. Historical examples of inflation and its effects. History provides clear lessons about inflation's impact. For example, hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, 2000s. Prices doubled almost daily, rendering money practically worthless and destroying savings and economic stability. The 1970s U.S. inflation, fueled by oil price shocks and monetary policies. It led to high inflation rates that eroded savings and prompted significant economic adjustments. Japan's low inflation/deflation decades. Prolonged periods of low inflation or deflation can also hurt economies by encouraging people to delay spending and investment. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up, leave a comment, and click the button to subscribe.